This is Ron White. He's a fan of mine, and Ron's a cool guy. This isn't necessarily here to bust Ron's balls, but Ron brings up a topic I want to talk about. One that's been floating around, and if Digi can be nettled by the meaning of obvious words, well, why the fuck not me too, senpai? Ron talked about the fact that he was tired of cringe being synonyms for words like stupid and socially awkward. Now, I can try and be terribly clever and say, well, all poodles are dogs, but not all dogs are poodles. Not all stupid things or socially awkward things are cringy. You ever look at something and flinch? That feeling, that repulsion that you have flowing through you? That's cringe. And unless you're from 4chan, or you make YouTube poop, or you really need to troll someone and gotta go that extra mile, most people avoid crap like that. It's one of the reasons why I kinda hate memes, because there's a lot of intentional cringe in them. It's built from the ground floor to make you feel repulsed. Oh, sure, you could get numb to it, and I'm sure you could get numb to staring at a dead body, if I looked at it long enough. Don't believe me? I want you to look up "and hero" without the safety filter on, using, I don't know, Yahoo or Google, or Encyclopedia Dramatica, "and hero." If you keep reading about that more and more, you're going to get numb to the whole thing. Enough of that. Let's get back on topic. FNGR, how can you stop from being cringe? Isn't that kind of a subjective thing? You bet it is. Look at the last election. Depending on your party line, I bet you thought the other side was cringy in the presidency. Which is weird. I don't really recall that in the last 8 years. Running for or against. It seems like a more recent thing. So here's step 1. And feel free pointing out that I've blown this already. Which only proves my point. Number 1. Know when to shut up.
You're an asshole! No. Really? I didn't know that. I'm an asshole? Really? No shit. You know, people love the fact. People subscribe to me because I'm an asshole about the topics that I talk about.
It's surprisingly hard to be cringy when you're quiet. Not impossible. For any of you guys who know Rainbow X Dashy, there are ways. But if you love the sound of your own voice...
Right, okay, there are multiple problems with this, right? There are so many problems with it. It shows a huge lack of understanding.
That's a very interesting thing.
Anything to do with the show.
I mean, this is just a trailer.
You might be cringy. Number 2, if you're having a hard time socializing, and keep in mind no one's saying that you have to do it this way, this is the safest way possible. Hi, how are you? Tell someone that the last thing that they worked on was pretty good. Then tell them what you wanted to see more of. Or possibly less of, whatever that was. I'm looking at you, YouTube comments. You might ask yourself, where do things go wrong? This is where I detract from my peer Shelly D. One of the best ways to get over being socially awkward is also one of the worst ways that things can go terribly south. Confidence. As an example of someone who handles social miscues amazingly well, with a ton of swagger, and comes off as lovable for it, Aeon of Dreams.
And this is the kind of atheism I'm talking about. It's more of course witches are all atheists. You don't need to believe in God when you just see him all the time. It's about as irrelevant as... Yeah, I know, right? It's about as irrelevant as saying, I believe in the postman.
That's a really interesting way of saying it.
The way Aeon carries himself, you might mistake him for an asshole jock. But it's a well-crafted facade that I can't even remember the last time Aeon ever said too much. His ebb and flow in being a delightfully eccentric asshole is a masterpiece. I'd almost tell him to make a video, but then his Secrets of the Universe would get out. If I had to think of someone who completely tanked by bulldozing their way through the social circle by being confident, and, no, oddly enough, not Sheldon, that would be Shark Discusses. When Shark was gabby, as well as socially awkward, and still getting his footing, he wasn't all that bad, even when he wound up calling me out of the blue 3 times. There are some fans who, when they get over the "oh my god, it's you" bubble, they start to act like that socially awkward kid in the sitcom that you have to put up with because it's in the script. I want to be perfectly clear on this. The day when you discover your viewpoint is potentially as valid as your hero's is, cool. That's a wonderful lesson. What you don't want to do to your hero is what you learned in their face. If you don't know how to politely push back and have an ebb and flow in the conversation, don't do it. There's an art form to having a discussion. It's what I missed about talking with past analysis. I recall having fairly deep conversations with the guy. Not always, but it was a time to listen, take stock, and reflect and respond. Something I remember Shark had zero capacity in doing any of those things. So recapping, to help you with being socially awkward, learn to listen and shut up. Suggest, request, don't command, or disregard. If you're going duh, then I got good news for you. At least you know how not to be cringy. Now whether you practice that or not is another matter. Now for the other half. When does being stupid become cringy? No doubt the subjective measure is going to come in here, but there's one universal truth in this. If you do something fast enough, you can almost always get away with anything. If you said or did something stupid, as long as you stop quick enough, and again feel free to say, like now, you're gonna be better off. Ever see a guy or a girl doing something dumb in a relationship, and the longer it goes on, the more it hurts to look at? That's the cringe. But did you bust out a coupon on a date? Did you see your date flinch? If you shoved it back immediately in your pocket, well, if you did that, it will be a lot better than leaving it out.
Ay, Dios mío. Okay. I need to go fuck Spicy Demon.
You know what? Let's get away from relationships and make this a bit more basic. Have you ever insulted someone or some friend or otherwise and then heard the audible "excuse me"? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. You're not always going to get a chance to walk it back. Sometimes, that "excuse me" is someone taking a moment before they slap the shit out of you. But in the fortunate moment where you're asked to clarify, just say you got the names mixed up. Let's say random Brony A called Secret Dreamer a slut. Let's suppose I looked up and said, "Excuse me?" The correct answer would be, "Oh, I meant to say the Loony Dreamer." Yeah, no, you don't know who that is. That's some crazy bitch. Sounds convincing. Remind the person that's talking that you're tired. And you suck with names. If you need to, point out that you call it the wrong name routinely during sex. Say it's a medical tick. It's bound to work at least half of the time. Another way to cut back on being cringy is not to come into the call screaming. Radio edit. Lips. And no reminding your friends you're a Marine. Doesn't make it cool. Now, I'm not saying I know anyone like this, but if I did, that shit's really fucking cringy. Just so you know. There's obviously different degrees. For example, my friend Vito, when the conversation starts to die, will bust out the words, "So have you seen any good porn lately?" That's one of those things where you can gauge whether you rather have dead silence or talk about porn. Needless to say, you'd be surprised how much Harley Quinn or Catwoman porn there is out there. Now, see, if you felt yourself flinch, don't worry. We're gonna move on from that now. In closing, Ron, there are reasons why people think those things are cringy. It's a matter to what degree and how long. So before we get to Lily Peet, I thought we'd talk about someone from the other side of the aisle. This is Sargon of Akkad. Now before any of you turn off or hit skip, for any of you guys in the know, YouTube is making life difficult once again for its content creators. Hi, by the way. Money has gone down, and while I can laugh off this hit, I'd rather enjoyed watching the progress of that growing from day to day. Somehow, I'd make enough, hoping one day that somehow I would make this a full-time job. You better believe this has been sobering, but I still want this to be the end goal. And one of the people leading this charge, in some small way, is Sargon of Akkad. There is a new website called Minds that is a mix of Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, except there's no shadow banning. They're still working out the kinks as well as the monetization. And sadly, it's a candy land for those kind of people. Let's just say it's very conservative. I have naturally attached myself to the hashtag #SaveTheAdSense bandwagon. But then I did come across this video. The Natural Enemies of YouTube. Now here's the rub. Being Catholic, left to my own devices, I am capable of blind faith. And had Sargon had simply asked me, "Shut your mouth, you'll get your money back, go with the flow," I'd probably be down with that, but Sargon's endless bitching and moaning about the left and claims to be liberal because he feels the best way of protecting liberals is criticizing them endlessly and pointing out all their faults publicly. I feel this is the exact same kind of support I know we all owe Sargon. Now keep in mind, I'm stupid and I'm willing to shut up and listen, provided there's some answer to be put forth. And it's highly likely I just missed a point. If you find my concerns are valid, upvote this video.
So let's talk about the numbers. In 2016, YouTube received 5 billion video views per day, from 900 million unique users every month, with 70% of this figure coming from outside of the United States. 1 billion of YouTube's daily views were on mobile devices. This is a 5-fold increase in views per day since 2009, where YouTube received only 1 billion views per day. Despite this massive growth, YouTube is not profitable. The annual cost of running and maintaining YouTube is almost $6.5 billion, and the annual revenue generated by YouTube is only $4 billion. And YouTube makes up only 6% of Google's total ad sales.
Now, did anyone miss this? YouTube is losing $2.35 billion according to these numbers. Now stick with me a little longer. This is where my idiocy really shows through.
Another major thorn in the side of existing TV networks, as in 2016, the rise of Netflix was responsible for a 50% drop-off in TV viewing time in the United States. Put simply, market forces are steadily eroding the existing media to catch up with digital and technological developments in the same way that made Betamax, videotapes, videocassettes, and CDs obsolete.
Now bear with me, Sargon talks about TV becoming obsolete as well as other media, but this doesn't hold water for one simple fact when he puts this next point up. Netflix makes money. What Google is doing, YouTube is subsidizing a product that loses money. Let me put this into perspective. Google is a multi-billion-dollar company. Multi-billion-dollar companies aren't in the business to make a little money or break even, or make a couple of $100 or a couple of $1,000, or even a couple of $1 million. YouTube, as a platform, costs $2 billion plus. But let's round that down, because why not? And in Sargon land, that's progress. If this video from anyone else was explaining the European Union and how they could afford to lose money, Sargon would be screaming bullocks so loud he would give himself a hernia. So the future Sargon wants is to leave you where one major company is making a $2 billion loss and is surviving on subsidies. This is the same sort of nonsense that the Brexit-minded British people scoff at. And now suddenly it's okay? If Netflix were to ruin television while making a profit, well, that is progress. YouTube, even by Sargon's own wording, is being propped up to continue working at a staggering loss. When I tell you that YouTube is the European Union of media, I can say that and mean it. No one likes it. Everyone, including yourself, is utterly miserable under its yoke, Sargon. It's a bureaucracy that has to answer to special interests, i.e. sponsors, not the fans and certainly not the content creators.
They know the writing is on the wall, and they are doing everything in their power to hurt YouTube in an attempt to prevent this otherwise inevitable decline. And they might do it if we do nothing.
Now, I want to be honest here. I stand everything to gain by seeing Sargon proven right. The sponsors return en masse, my AdSense, and the AdSense of my favorite YouTubers returns. All the while, the old media gets murdered. However, what really is happening is that a subsidized media doesn't have to turn a profit. Sargon, that's not how capitalism works. That's how socialism works. Oh wait, I finally do believe you're liberal. If you'd like to explain, please leave a comment down below. And be reminded, this isn't a personal attack. At least back in my day, progress generally meant moving forward, and not regressing backwards. Thank you, fuck you, bye. Mwah. This comment here originally went up a couple weeks back. And no matter how retarded Lily was going to be, I didn't want to be an insufferable ass and get the last word at every time, and quite frankly, there wasn't much mileage to get out of this. But enough of these started to pile up because Lily Peet gets super fucking bold when she's unchecked. Now, somehow, someway, Lily thinks Tumblr is a one-sided street that can escape things being challenged and are allowed to be much less truthful. So we're gonna nip this right in the butt.
What I don't get from all this talk about you being just as bad as FNGR, Lightning and Toon don't seem to talk about the sleaze bag very much. That's because they frequently appear in his podcast. FNGR is in the same boat as JonTron, where most of his bullshit is taken seriously, because He admits that he's an asshole. Also, it's not worth noting, since new additions to my Discord channel, I have been flooded with stories on just how much of a creepy, despicable little boy Toon is. Case end. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have my girlfriend shove my vibrator up my ass.
Just as bad as FNGR. Lily, with me trying to be as bad as you, I'm still not. This is the part that burns Lily's ass. I can be myself, and I can damn near say whatever I want and still talk to whoever I want. Do you know who Lily gets to talk to? Zane and his girlfriend.
Don't you mean his wife, sir?
You mean the girl he doesn't live with. Alright, everyone sit down. I'm going to offend a lot of you. Lily Peet isn't really married. It's one of those cringy roleplay family things.
But FNGR, don't you have a lot of friends that have cringy roleplay families?
I do. It's just as embarrassing. You see, this line about Toon being a bad boy, you know what Toon doesn't do? Have a fake roleplay brother and sister. Because the connections of friendship between himself, Golden Fox Keyframe, and hell, even Tumblr Woman over here, are strong enough that he doesn't need to make that friendship some kind of weird cult. Let me explain this to you. Ever have your friends ask you for a couple of dollars or a favor? Sometimes you have to say no, and friends, the good ones understand that shit, and the ones who don't, you can flush down the toilet. And those people end up on Lily Peet's Discord chat. Here, let's read this one off.
There are a lot of channels out there that act as wannabe Keemstars and actually target vulnerable people for made-up crimes. Channels that don't have a larger point to make when highlighting an event. What makes me such a bandwagon for them is that I actively go after them. I hit the bullies across their skull with their own bat and shine a light on their bullshit for a much larger audience. People will often tell me, don't talk about FNGR, it just gives him the attention he craves. But what those people don't often realize, and because he tags me in his garbage, is that the few times I highlighted FNGR on Glass of Water, namely Horse Famous, he got extremely angry about it. He was not happy that I shone a light on his nonsense. All this talk of respecting the artist and being the bigger person while they just fling their shit around is just a red herring. What they want from me is just to be quiet and let them go about harassing everyone who looks at them funny. It's not my job to be quiet.
The addition Lily Peet has is this obnoxious Tumblrina that Eliora forced on Toon Critics Room. On everyone in that room. From first-hand experience in the domain, Eliora is the kind of person who will inflict physical damage on you if she can to win an argument, if you disagree with her. And when she screws up, her ideal of an apology is, well, I'm a bitch. She's the whole reason why the leak that's currently residing in Lily Peet's room was someone that no one wanted to put up with, because Eliora is an abusive prick who imposed herself until she got her way. That's why someone is over there feeding Lily intel that she never would have known about. It's the same reason why Sketchy the Changeling was forced back in that room by Tumblr Woman, when you know it. The same person who has to make sure that not only herself, but everyone else is ruled by her emotions. The funny thing is about Eliora is that she brings me this close to calling her an SJW, even though I don't believe that those things exist. And I could still win that argument based off of her. No one in Eliora's group acts like her. She is one lone asshole. She is that upper lip quivering, patriarchy ring rage douche. The mere fact that Toon Critic continues to put up with this dullard makes him a fucking saint. One more thing. I've had several members of Limbo tell me she's gonna beat your ass at BronyCon. From Kichi to Quillstroke, etc., etc. Not that I'm wrong. Not that anyone is gonna dream to correct her. I'm just sick and tired of fighting with one arm behind my back because of this idiot. She screeched at me when I dared to speak out against Pokebrony. When I stood behind what I said when she ordered me to drop it, because God forbid someone make this annoying Tumblr fan uncomfortable. You know what, Eliora? I want you to publicly explain to me why Pokebrony is anything other than garbage. And before I get called a Nazi and you cold cock me. You're cringy, degenerate Tumblr trash. You cheapen and ruin everything you touch. If she reminds you of Lily Peet at all, she should. Continuing on, You do understand that every time one of these videos is about you, my views go up, right? Was legit saddened about your April Fool's video. But we'll get back to that in a moment. Lily, if you want to have a private conversation, you know where to find me. If you want to have a public conversation, you know where to find me. You want someone who shined a light on my bullshit? Midnight Chimes brought up everything wrong with hashtag respect the artist. And not only did I agree with him, I told everyone on my channel to go check out his work. You will never see Lily Peet highlight anyone else who showed that she fucked up. The problem with the Lily Peet cult is, if you can't talk with someone when they drop the ball ever, they're never gonna grow and move beyond their mistakes. Lily Peet tries to act like Jim motherfucking Sterling. Except Jim sat down and talked to the people from Digital Homicide. He went to Steam to talk to them. If you have a problem with how I run Analysis Daily, again, you have my Skype, you got my DA, there's my comment section. Please ignore Sheldon if he talks in the comment chain, and Vita, and Mad Plushie, and A-Hat. But other than that, you should be fine. No one's telling you you can't challenge me. Fuck, I had a blowout fight with the LTC, and I'm on good talking terms with Dillon Thomas, their lead. I don't agree with everything he does, but he's open to criticism, and at the very least appears to be listening. Here's a massive shit wall where we're gonna just hit some quick points. The point about people liking catty bullshit, and then you talk about integrity. You make the jabs either because you A, fancy yourself a bitter, scorned lover, or B, are trying to harvest and ration out the drama and sprinkle it in with your work, knowing that people will stay tuned in and hang on for those choice moments, and meaning presumably your alleged normal fans can tune in and ignore a few brief moments. The drama llamas can get their fill, and it's not a bad idea. If you had any fucking integrity, you'd fucking call it what it is. Trying to pander to everyone. Here, let me break it down for you. Let's say Lily Peet hauls off and slaps the shit out of Josh. It'll be a 5-star show. The views go up, Lily Peet gets out of her system. That video would go really well. But then what? I learned early on that drama to a non-drama channel is like ripping off part of your house and setting it on fire to stay warm. The more you do it, the less house you have. The way I got around it now versus then is my channel, back in the day, was podcasts, analysis, and I would occasionally do a commentary. The ones that hit pay dirt were the ones where 1, the person was able to speak well, hi Lily, 2, had to be utterly retarded, once again hi Lily. Lily Peet fucks up a lot, but nowhere enough to be a reliable way to sustain, much less grow a channel. I stumbled on to this format, fucking with my friends, and oddly enough, at the end of the first video is right where we are now, correcting Lily Peet, who's quietly whispering on her Tumblr on how we should act, while trying to make that information as unaccessible as possible. Lily Peet's logic is the most counterintuitive garbage I have ever come across. Well weaved, to look as pretty as possible, Lily Peet exists to be commentated on. Let's jump around a bit. Few content creators have the spine to refuse demands from their viewers. Unhealthy. In the past, you talked about how you got angrier and angrier in an effort to cut back on your drama. After following your advice, well, now look at you. You're admitting you're on edge. Your words, not mine. Look, I might be 110% drama llama, but I enjoy what I do. How about you, Betty Boo? Speaking of which, from Lily's mole, aka Eliora's friend, the things I've learned from Toon is he's a rampaging demagogue in his chat. Well, no, that's Eliora. Tumblr trash just like you, Lily, which is why I left the domain. At worst, Toon can be a little bratty. Imagine that, a Brony. Where he threw Aeon out of Dreams out of his chat for beating him at a fucking video game. Lily Peet threw out British Ninja for factually correcting her. The big difference is that Aeon was brought back because Toon's friends guided him to the right choice. If Lily's friends did that, they would cease to be her friends. Lily and Orchid will cease to be the moment Orchid ever tries to correct her girlfriend, and she knows it. So you better never forget that, honey. Here's another quote. People like to pretend I'm polarizing because I said an episode they like sucks. It's certainly not because you've tried to rewrite history and act like Pinkie Posh was a delightfully mischievous scam.
On the blog, Down with Molestia was started by Pinkie Posh, a then 17-year-old girl, and that's how the controversy exploded. What happened? Well, right from the word go, it wasn't exactly clear what Pinkie was trying to achieve.
who was misunderstood. There are oodles of people who don't watch analysis videos, who are bronies, who hate your guts for stupid bullshit that you repeatedly do. Again, this is Cal Payne, the head editor of UKD, a great human being, the former editor of Molestia, and why he and I have different thoughts on the Brony analysis community. He's widely understood to be the nicest guy at Equestria Daily, and that includes Silver Quill. He also retweeted many posts from Anon KP Links because he knew KP was a god-awful fucking bitch. Let me repeat that again. While Seth was willing to let KP off the hook, this is the most moral man at EQD doing the right thing. A man with integrity, self-respect, and someone with some fucking conviction. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, Lily. Now that I'm on talking terms with Josh and you're not, I'm glad you're shutting up about him, because Lord knows, I might had to face any moral conflicts of keeping my mouth shut about telling the truth. But now I don't have to. On the other hand, when you speak up and try and fill people's ears about the misunderstandings of KP, I'm gonna be on you like multicolored hair on a tumblerina. Me and Event Horizon are waiting, and feel free to name drop me. And use my footage. At the very least, hopefully you'll be able to try and cite some of the artists I've used. You lazy, pasty-faced prick. One more point. Lightning Bliss and Toon Critic have been whining, I'm as bad as FNGR. Dear Lily, if you've got a place where this was said, I'd love to see it. We were reading off your post in Limbo with Toon Critic, and he had no fucking idea what you were talking about. Let's continue. If I was just as bad as FNGR, they'd snuggle up to me. 1, get fucked. 2, I'm on good terms with Toon, 'cause I hang out with fun people, and cut out the people that suck. I have a fairly good filter. And it's why Tumblr Woman's garbage friend is over in your chat, and not ours. And I can't beat this to death enough. Bliss and I barely talk. That's not a knock on Bliss. I'm not entitled to her time. We don't have a lot of things in common. And one more thing. They have a vendetta I was rude to Lightning Bliss. That one time. Alright, so we saw your excuse to not apologize to Sapphire Heartsong because she said you were on a period. Which is incorrect, you're always on the rag. It's your special talent. So explain this to me, the fans, your fans, or anyone else watching, why you shouldn't have just apologized to Bliss. Now bear with me, I know it's too late now, but if no one called you out on it, and Bliss would have just shuffled off without a backwards glance, be honest, for once in your life, I know you literally can't, you never would have walked that back. If anyone, including your roleplay wife, asked you, they would be kicked to the curb. I'm gonna skip over the part where Lily Peet mislabels us. You think the dreaded Miss Gender Pony could get something like a title right? I would be insulted if they considered me one of their own. Now that I know what laughable, pathetic monsters they are, oh Lily, I do consider you one of my own. You were on King of Limbo. You came on down and talked to me. That puts you ahead of everyone who didn't. Anytime, any day, when you want in Limbo's Skype chat, you're welcome. It's a sight better than the domain, and we don't have a rage deuce screaming at people the first moment that she gets triggered. I sadly can't offer you a spot in the Secret Rift. You seem to upset people, and I'd hate to have to make Wubcake uncomfortable, or Vector Brony, or Finn the Pony, or Geeky Steven, or Tricky Fox, or any nice people, including that Cinnamon Roll A&Y. But in Limbo, you can be as in-your-face as you want to be. Just to let you know, they're gonna give it back to you. But if you can ever behave yourself, maybe you can come into the Secret Rift. And if you want, you can go to the Rift Cafe. Just ask the Second Opinion for the Discord link, because he's a fucking moron. Thank you, fuck you, bye.